everyone. This is Faith at Faith and Books. How are you doing? It's a Sunday afternoon, and surprisingly, there's no one else here but me and the dog. And so I thought this would be a good time to make a video. This is a book haul because I've been buying a lot of books lately, and I meant to do it last week and I just never got to it. So this seems like a good opportunity to do it. So I'm excited to share all these books that I've gotten with you. I try to be restrained and not go on book buying sprees, but I have not been very restrained lately. So the first couple that I'm going to show you the new ones, the books I bought new, and then I'm going to show you the fun used books that was like a treasure hunt. And I found a lot of things that I was excited about. So let me start with a couple that I've already talked about. I got Our Mutual Friend by Charles Dickens. I'm doing the read along with Kate Howe's Victorian Book Club. And I thought I had bought it used, but it's new. I got it through Thrift Books. I'm a little bit disappointed in it because I usually like Oxford World's Classics, but the print, I don't know if you can tell. You can see the paper's so thin. You can see the print on the other side. The pages are kind of yellowed. And I don't like the type. The type's a little bit hard to read. So I'm kind of disappointed in that. But it's okay because I'm mostly listening to it on audio and then I'm reading it. I'm bouncing back and forth. So it's not like I'm reading this whole thick thing with my eyes. I'm listening. So, and I am almost done with chapter 9. So maybe I'll read that today. So I haven't read it in a couple of days. If I don't, Dickens has so many characters, if I don't keep up with it, and I can't let myself have too many breaks because I'll start to forget who the characters are. So anyway, so that's the first one that I bought new. Then I bought this, 4 Quartets by T.S. Eliot. This was for T.S. Eliot in August, which was such a good experience for me because I liked T.S. Eliot. I knew I liked him, but I had never tackled The Wasteland or 4 Quartets, and I was intimidated by them. And so I did buy this off Amazon, and what I did was just for 4 nights in a row, I read each section listening to Alec Guinness with my headphones on. I found him on YouTube, and I just listened to each section, like here's the first one, with him reading it, in my ears, and me reading along. And I feel like I got a lot out of it. And then I sort of went down a deep dive of watching lectures on. So I'm going to do a video about T.S. Eliot sometime this month. So yeah, so I'm glad that I got that. Then, oh, hold on a second. I forgot something. Okay, I could not find what I was looking for, but let me go on anyway. So I bought this book, Where Only Storms Grow by Alyssa Coleman. And I happen to sort of know her. I never actually met her in person, but she helped me co-lead the Buy Nothing for our group for a few months. And I found out she was an author. And she's written 2 other middle grade books. One is called, now I'm going to blank on it. I don't know where the books are. I went to look where I thought they were, and they weren't there, and I looked all over the house, so maybe I lent them out. But the first one she wrote was called, oh gosh, it was like a steampunk retelling of A Little Princess with like a fantasy element to it. The Little Princess has a little bit of that already. It was really well done. What was it called? I remember the second one was called The Tarnished Garden. What was the first book called? Oh, maybe it's in here. Wait, I can just look and see. Does it say? The Gilded Girl. That was the one. That's the first one she wrote, and it's a retelling of The Secret Garden, but in a very creative way. Lovely writer. It's intelligent, doesn't talk down to children, and it gives them like meaty stuff to think about, but in a very gentle way. I really, really enjoyed it. And then she wrote The Tarnished Garden, which is in the same universe as the first one, and it's kind of a same idea retelling of The Secret Garden. So so I've read both of those and I own them. Maybe I lent them out. I don't know where they are. But anyway, when I saw she had come out with a third book, I had to get it. So I just impulse bought it. And I'm looking forward to reading this. Right now I'm about 2/3 of the way through The Big Six by Arthur Ransom of the Swallows and Amazons series. And when I'm done with that, this is going to be my next sort of light bedside read. So I'm looking forward to that. Then I was searching for a nice edition of Shakespeare's sonnets because I'm trying to read his sonnets this month for Shaktember. And we only have it in a really thick, complete collection of Shakespeare. Very hard to read. So I thought I want one of those little, pocket-size editions of his sonnets. And I haven't been able to find it. But I went into Barnes & Noble looking for something, and I saw the nature writing table, and I was looking, and this one jumped out at me because this author wrote this other book that I read years ago. This book, A Sense of the World, one of the best books. So interesting about the life. It says how a blind man became history's greatest traveler. So it's about back in the Regency into Victorian times. This guy who was blind traveled the world and became a famous travel writer. And he was kind of forgotten by history. And then this guy did a lot of research and wrote a wonderfully written book. Reads like a novel for sure. It was absolutely fascinating, well written. And I read it a long time ago. I remember it was when my aunt was still alive and living here. And she read it too. And then a few years ago, I reread it as a buddy read with Mark at Book Time with Elvis. And he said, hasn't this guy, it's such a good book, hasn't he written anything else? But we couldn't find anything else that he had written. But now he's come out with this. So it's by Jason Roberts, Every Living Thing, The Great and Deadly Race to Know All Life. So it says back here, in the 18th century, Carl Linnaeus and I don't know how you say George in French, George or something, Louis de Buffon, dedicated their lives to the same daunting task, identifying and describing all life on Earth. Exact contemporaries and polar opposites, the two men fell far short of their goal, but in the process they articulated starkly divergent views on nature, the future of the Earth, and humanity itself. So I'm really looking forward to reading this because I so enjoyed this one. I've been waiting and waiting for this guy to write another book. So I think I'm going to read this in November. That's when I'm planning to do that. All right. And then, what else? I was going to show you something else. Oh, I can't remember. Oh, well, here we go. Here we go. I got rattled because I had to go search for those books, and I couldn't find them. So then this book, Bearing False Witness, Debunking Centuries of Anti-Catholic History by Rodney Stark. So I saw this on somebody's channel. It could have been Marleisha's Meanderings or Talia Nerds Out or some other channel. But, earlier this year, I read The Protestants by Alec Ryrie, I think was his name, who's a professor somewhere of history in England. And he's of the Church of England. And he said it was, the bio on the back of the book said he was a reader in the Church of England. Or maybe I didn't see that because I listened to it on audio, but somewhere I read that, maybe Wikipedia or something. Anyway, it was interesting getting the history of the whole Protestant movement from someone who was non-Catholic, because I either know my history from a Catholic perspective or a secular perspective. And so I liked getting it from a different angle. And this is the same case. This guy, Rodney Stark, I looked him up. Well, first of all, it says he's a distinguished professor of the social sciences and co-director of the Institute for Studies of Religion at Baylor University and honorary professor of sociology at Peking University in Beijing. But apparently before he worked at Baylor, he was considered himself agnostic, and he worked for a secular university. I can't remember the name of it. But then he got this job at Baylor, and he now calls himself an independent Christian. So he's coming from a non-Catholic perspective, but I think he just doesn't like the fact that there's all these myths, darkening the reputation of the Catholic Church, and believe it doesn't need any help. But and then they just get circulated around and recirculated around, and so that's why he, as just an honest person, wanted to debunk these anti-Catholic myths. So I thought that would be very interesting to read, to sort of continue my study, but I don't know exactly when I'm going to read this. And then the last two new things I got have to do with the Theology Book Club and our study of Isaiah, which is coming up. We're going to study Isaiah from October through December. We're going to study him for 11 weeks. There's 66 chapters in Isaiah, so that means 6 chapters a week. So, the chapters are like you can see here, chapter 34 starts here, and then there's chapter 35. So, you're reading ancient poetry, though, so it takes a bit to process it. But I'm really looking forward to it. And I had been doing some research to see, try to find a study guide or commentary. And I found this. This is Commentary on the Book of Isaiah, an in-depth look at the Gospel of the Old Testament. So apparently it's called the fifth Gospel because it's cited so many times in the New Testament. And then I saw that Marlicia's Meanderings, had actually bought it. So I'd been researching, but I hadn't made a decision. So I decided to go ahead and buy it. It was pretty pricey. Yeah, it was expensive. But I'm excited. It's very, very hefty. I mean, there is a lot of commentary. There is a lot of context and history in this study. So it's hefty. And then I got another commentary too. This is put out by Ignatius Catholic Study Bible, Isaiah. And the authors of this is by Scott Hahn, Curtis Mitch, and Mark Gizchak. Not sure how to say that. Anyway, Scott Hahn is a big name that I recognize. This one is a little bit more, seems a little easier to do. I think I'm going to read Isaiah from this commentary, read these notes, and then go to this book. And I'm going to do that. I follow this Irish priest, Father Columba, who I think his channel is called Called to More, and I really like him. He was saying that when he studied scripture, he would pick a book, and then he would get 2 different commentaries, and he would read them, and then he would make his own notes. So I bought a notebook. So I'm going to try and do it like he says. So that's why I had to buy those 2 books. So now let me move on to the used books that I got. Well, first of all, I went thrifting for stuff for our new guest room. And I had to go buy I didn't find anything there, but I had to go buy the books, of course. And I didn't really see a lot. It was really badly organized. Like, it didn't make sense where books were. But I found this very sweet collection. So this one, it's called The Library of Living and Working in Colonial Times. This one is a day in the life of a colonial wig maker. And I loved the way it's presented. This is just for, kids. And time for a shave. So many to choose from. All those wigs. Anyway, there's this one. There's a day in the life of a colonial surveyor. There's a day in the life of a colonial school teacher. A day in the life of a colonial silversmith. A day in the life of a colonial dressmaker. And a day in the life of a colonial doctor. And the reason why I wanted to get these is my grandson who lives with us, in fourth grade, they do state history. So they're doing Virginia history. And at the end of the year, the fourth grade puts on a colonial fair for the whole school. So that's what he's doing this year. And I thought that these would be easy to read and interesting books that would help him learn his history this year. So I got those. I think that was $14 for all of these. Then I had a great time. I went to the basement of this little museum in the town that I live outside of. And in the basement, they have a used book store, and it's very well curated. I feel like I'm crooked. Wait, let me see if I can straighten myself. I don't know if that's going to come out like that. Anyway, sorry if I'm crooked. Anyway, so I walked in. Again, I was looking for sonnets, and I was also looking to see if they had a used copy of Our Mutual Friend, because last year I found Little Dorrit there. And so I was looking for that, but I couldn't find. They had lots of Shakespeare, but they didn't have a collection of just the sonnets. But I saw this. Let me see if I can get this out. And it just called to me. So this is the Poldark series, the first 6 books. Do I have them in order? Here we go. $9 for this. So I love Poldark. I remember reading Poldark when the first PBS series came out, way back. And then they've recently done a remake, and this is obviously modeled on that because they've got pictures of the new hunky Poldark. But I remember reading them as a teenager and loving them. And then I reread them recently, and I guess it must have been in conjunction with the new series. But I got them all out of the library. But when I saw this, I thought for $9, I mean, I just love the series. I didn't really watch the TV series that much, but I love the books. So I'm excited that I got that. I felt like that was a really good deal and a really good addition to my library, because they're books that I wouldn't mind rereading again. Then, let's see, what was the order in which I got all this stuff? Let me see if I can recreate that. Oh, yeah. So I was looking for the Dickens book, and I was looking under the D's, and here is an Ivan Dogue book, Dancing at the Rascal Fair. And Ivan Dogue, I discovered just a couple of years ago when we went to Glacier National Park in Montana, and I wanted to read something set in that area, so I did some research, and I learned about Ivan Dogue. And I read his memoir, which is called This House of Sky. Beautiful, absolutely gorgeous writing, beautiful memoir. I really enjoyed it. And then, not this past June on the Range, but the year before, I've read his book, English Creek, which is, I mean, I think he writes basically the same story over and over again, but he writes it really, really beautifully. And so English Creek is like a fictionalized story based on his childhood. And this was, they had 3 books by him on the shelf in this used bookstore, and the other 2 were The House of Sky and English Creek. And this was the one I hadn't read yet, Dancing at the Rascal Fair. So it says here, from its opening on the quays of a Scottish port in 1889 to its close on a windswept Montana homestead 3 decades later, Dancing at the Rascal Fair is a passionate and authentic chronicle of the American experience. So I think that'll be an excellent read. I really love his prose. He just tells the story so well. It's just beautiful the way he writes. So I'm looking forward to that. That might be my next June on the Range read. And then I saw another book. That this could also be a June on the Range, that I'd read as a teen, and then, or maybe in my early 20s. I know I was still living in my parents' house. And then I've reread since, but I reread it years ago. But that's this book, Giants in the Earth by O.E. Rolvag. So this is like a classic. There's a glare on there. This is a classic. There's the author. This book, which is about oh my gosh, Norwegians. I forgot if they were Norwegian or Swedish. Norwegian settling the Dakotas but it was written in Norwegian and published in Norway before it was translated into English. But it's a classic story of people. It says a saga of the prairie, of immigrants trying to, eke out a living on the prairies. So it's beautifully, it's like an adult Little House on the Prairie. It's a beautiful read. So I might try to read that also for June on the Range. Then, what else did I see? Then I saw this old edition of Sapphira and the Slave Girl. This is by Willa Cather. I love Willa Cather. I'd like to read everything she wrote. I think I've read more than half. I have some more to go. But I read this for my women's authors class back in college, and I loved it. I had a copy of the book for years, and it's disappeared. I don't know what's happened to it. So when I saw this, even though this is kind of in bad shape, but look, December 7th, 1940. So how do you bind up these old books? I'm going to try and find like the best kind of tape or what to do to preserve this book. But this is, it's the American Lending Library in College Point, New York. Yeah. Anyway, I would love to reread this, and I love vintage books. So that was an exciting buy, and it was $1. Yeah, it was $1. So, and then let's see. Then I saw this book, Tales of the Alhambra by Washington Irving. I've been wanting to read more Washington Irving ever since I heard Steve Donahue said that Washington Irving never wrote a bad sentence. I've only read, the two ones that everybody's read, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow and Rip Van Winkle. And I remember hearing about this in that book, North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. Or I actually can't remember if it's in the book. I think it is. But in the mini-series they did, Margaret and her mother are meeting with John Thornton's sister, whose name I can't remember. But and they're kind of snickering at her because she's so enthusiastic about the tales of the Alhambra. And I remember thinking, don't make fun of her. I want to read the tales of the Alhambra. So anyway, so I'm glad I got it. This is a nice edition, but it is, it's cracking. So I think I'm going to have to repair this one too. But it's a nice edition, and I look forward to reading this. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. Then I saw this really unusual hardbound edition of Middlemarch. So I'm trying to read all of George Eliot. I only have one major work to go, The Mill on the Floss. I've read Middlemarch twice. Have I read it twice or more than that? I can't remember. But anyway, this is a 2-volume set. It's very simple and plain. Has beautiful paper. Just the feel of this paper is so nice. And I just love this edition. It's the people who put it out are Konman, Konemann. Never heard of them, but it was $5. And I thought, that's a really nice edition of Middlemarch. Again, this is something I want to reread. So I thought it was worth getting. Then, well, this one was kind of a silly purchase. $2 though. I really like Dana K. White. She's got a YouTube channel. She's an organizer. She's the only organizer that ever helped a bit with me. I've followed so many different organizers and read so many books and nothing works. She's the only one that has really worked for me. So when I saw her book, I thought, oh, I've only ever watched her YouTube channel. Maybe having her book would be good. So I got that. And then the last thing that I want to show you is I got a copy of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and other stories. Let's see, The Bottle Imp, The Body Snatcher, Olala, Thrawn Janet, Markheim, and then The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So there's a bunch of stories in here. And I have never read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I've never read it. So I'm thinking this Victober I'm going to try to read it. Yeah, so I'm excited to get this copy because my daughter had to read it in her English. She took a co-op class. She was homeschooled, but we had a co-op, and she was assigned the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde to read, and she just bought one of those print-on-demand copies, and she gave it to me when she moved out. She said, "Oh, here, Mom," because I said, "You know, I've never read that." And she said, "Oh, here, it's good. Read it." But I didn't like the way it was printed out, and I just kept putting it off because it just aesthetically it bothered me. So, so I like this one a lot better. I like deckled edges. I know some people like Sean Standfast can't stand them, but I kind of like them. And this, look, somebody bought this at Borders. So that was a long time ago for $5.95. Anyway, I'm excited about getting that as well. So that is it for my book haul. I hope I didn't bore you too much. I'm all excited about these books. So I hope you're doing well and happy reading. Bye.